Everyone. Welcome to Affairs Cloud. The Environment Impact Assessment Draft of 2020 has been in the news recently. On one hand, environmental activists are claiming that the new draft dilutes the provisions of the previous notification of 2006, and on the other hand, it is also claimed that the new draft will improve the ease of doing business. So, in this video, we'll take a look at the Environment Impact Assessment Draft of 2020 in detail and we'll attempt to answer all the questions. So, on the 23rd of March, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change had issued the Draft Environmental Impact Assessment, which shall henceforth be abbreviated as EIA notification of 2020. And this notification will be replacing the previous notification that was issued back in 2006. And this notification had a deadline for receiving public comments, and that deadline was set as the 30th of June, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, considering the situation and hence the delayed response, the Delhi High Court had extended the deadline to August 11th of 2020. So at first, let's answer what is environmental impact assessment. So environmental impact assessment is the process or study which attempts to identify the effects of a proposed industrial or infrastructural project on the environment. So, for example, operation of a coal mine releases coal dust into the atmosphere and this causes air pollution. Or for instance, operation of a textile industry often depletes a surrounding area of its water resources due to the high water requirements of operating a textile industry. So the objective of EIA is to identify such effects and to quantify them, and also in order to see whether or not it would cause irreversible damage to the environment or the people living in the surroundings of such industrial or infrastructural project. EIA also attempts to prevent a proposed activity or project from being approved without proper impact assessment. So impact assessment in this context means environmental impact assessment, and attempts to compare the various alternatives of a proposed project, and in order to pick the ideal one or the optimal one here, where optimal means considering both economic as well as environmental concerns. Now, EIA is statutorily backed by the Environment Protection Act of 1986. So this is the parent act under which EIA has the regulatory framework. So it contains the framework as well as the methodology and process for EIA. Let us take a brief look at the history of environmental laws in India before proceeding further. So India was a signatory to the Stockholm Declaration on 1972, which was the first international document on environmental laws, and subsequently under Article 253 had enacted laws in order to control water pollution by the Water Act of 1974 and to control air pollution through the Air Act of 1981. This had also set up the respective pollution control boards in India. Now, following the Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984, which is one of the deadliest industrial accidents in the entire world, India had legislated an Umbrella Act in order for environment protection in 1986. This is the Environment Protection Act of 1986, and subsequently in 1994, India had issued the first draft notification for environmental impact assessment under the Environment Protection Act of 1986, and this provided for regulating projects that access, utilize and affect the natural resources. The original EIA notification of 1994 was replaced with a fresh notification in 2006, and according to this new notification, it was mandatory for projects and industries, including very small industries, to obtain prior environmental clearance. So what this means is that the first step would be to obtain environmental clearance before one can start or operate any project or industry. So this was made mandatory. First you obtain clearance and then you can start or operate a project or an industry. Now this leads to the question as to the process behind this environmental impact assessment. So this whole assessment is carried out by an expert appraisal committee, EAC, and this committee consists of scientists, mostly environmental scientists, who are well versed in gauging the impact that a said project or industry could have on the environment, as well as it consists of project management experts. The following is the process of assessment by the expert appraisal committee. So at first, the committee frames the scope of the study And after framing the scope, the initial draft report is prepared. Now, legally, this draft report should be left for public consultation in accordance with the public participation principle of environmental law. After public consultation, the final draft report is prepared and subsequently appraisal of the report takes place. After appraisal, the final report is sent to the concerned regulatory authority, which in this case is the Ministry of Environment and Forests. Now, ordinarily speaking, the report is accepted by the regulatory authority. Now let's take a look at the EIA draft of 2020 and the key changes that it has brought along with it. So as we just noted, the process of public consultation begins right after the completion of the initial draft. And the time period that has been allotted for this process has been restricted to a maximum of 40 days according to the proposed 2020 draft, and in specific the time period allotted for the public in order for them to submit their responses, that is the public consultation response process, has been reduced from 30 to 20 days. So it was 30 days according to the 2006 notification, and it has been cut down 10 days, and currently the 2020 draft proposes 20 days time period for the public to submit their response. A point that we need to note here is that the draft has so far been officially published only in English and Hindi. And as we all know, majority of Indians are not literate in either English or Hindi, especially rural Indians. A very low percentage of rural Indians are literate in either of these languages. So this, coupled with the fact that the time period for the public to submit their response has been cut down, makes one to think that the principle of public participation is getting diluted. The validity of environmental clearances for several category of projects has been increased. For example, validity for mining projects has been increased from a time period of 30 years to 50 years, and validity for projects concerning river valley, irrigation projects and etc. has been increased from 10 to 15 years according to the 2020 draft. Now, regarding the submission of compliance report, previously proponents were required to submit compliance report twice per year, that is every 6 months, in contrast to the once per year that has been proposed by the 2020 draft. Now, as far as violations to compliance are concerned, according to the 2020 draft, violations can be reported only by either a government authority, a concerned government authority, or by the developer themselves suo motu. No, there is no longer any scope for public complaint about violations. So it does not make a lot of sense to expect the developer themselves to file complaint regarding their violations. And also the fact that according to the 2020 draft, the scope for any public complaint has been scrapped, once again hints that the principle of public participation is getting diluted. According to the new draft, certain categories of projects are exempted from obtaining any clearance, or in certain cases exempted from obtaining the public consultation process. So let's take a look at that. So all inland waterways projects, modernization of irrigation projects, as well as projects concerning expansion or widening of national highways are completely exempt from obtaining the public consultation. And offshore projects that are located beyond 12 nautical miles from the Indian border are also exempt. As far as construction projects are concerned, construction of built-up area up to 1,50,000 square meter are exempt from obtaining any clearance whatsoever. Now, it is to be noted that previously this threshold was set at 20,000 square meters according to the 2006 notification. Now, this threshold has been increased significantly to the point that even airports in tier 2 cities have built up area of less than 1,50,000 square meter. So, it is to be noted that increasing this threshold can have a significant impact on projects that no longer may require clearance. Now, as far as border areas are concerned, roads and pipelines in border areas are exempt from obtaining any clearance whatsoever. Here, border areas is defined as areas that are within 100 kilometers of aerial distance from the line of actual control from neighboring countries. So, according to this definition, most of the northeastern states will fall under this border area classification. So, it should also be noted that most of our biodiversity exists in the northeastern states. So, this could potentially cause a lot of harm to those states. Another thing is that no information shall be placed on the public domain for projects that are classified as strategic. So naturally, projects that are concerned with defense and internal security are classified as strategic. But according to this new draft, the Union government shall henceforth have the authority to classify any project that it deems as strategic. The new draft has also approved for post facto clearance. This is the aspect of the draft that has been most criticized about. So what post facto clearance means is that projects that are operating without prior clearance or operating currently in violation of the Environment Act can even now apply for clearance. So even without prior clearance or in violation of Environment Act that are running currently can still apply for clearance. For example, let's assume that a project or an industry was started operating without any prior clearance and has been operating so for 4 years, completely in violation of the Environment Act. It can even now apply for clearance provided that the violator will need to present 2 plans for remediation and should also augment resources corresponding to 1.5 to 2 times the ecological damage assessed and the economic benefit derived due to the violation. Now this assessment shall be made by the expert appraisal committee, and the violator will need to augment resources corresponding to 1.5 times if the violator themselves recognizes the violation suo moto, and 2 times if the concerned government authority recognizes the violation of the proponent. Also, other than this, the violator will need to pay financial penalty, that is fine of an amount anywhere between 2,000 to rupees 10,000 per day for the period of delay. Now this is a very insignificant amount for any large scale operators that are operating in terms of gross turnover in crores and crores of rupees annually. It is to be noted that back in April, the Supreme Court of India had also disapproved of the concept of post facto environmental clearances, stating that it diluted the prevention and precaution principles of environmental law. It is alleged that the LG Polymers plant in Visakhapatnam, which was the site of the styrene gas leak on the 7th of May that killed 11 people, was also running without prior environmental clearance for multiple years. So, approval of ex post facto clearance could increase the likelihood of such accidents happening. So, I hope I have answered all your questions regarding the EIA draft of 2020. Now, as we know, the government has set the deadline at August 11th in order for receiving any objections or feedback regarding the draft. So, please take a look at the given below postal and the email address. Please make sure that you provide your valuable feedback. Thank you. Hope you liked our video. Please leave your feedback in the form of comments, and please remember to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.